Okay, so welcome to the Entrepreneurship. Today we have Kassius Denizen. I met Kassius years ago in the event scene in Toronto. And I'm not sure if he was running, were you running a securities company at the time?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
exactly what it was. Yeah.
And now, Mr. Kaizen, you do like image and lifestyle consulting.
Correct.
And you contribute to Vibe Toronto and Swagger magazine.
Correct.
So can you tell us, like, walk us through a bit about why you entered entrepreneurship, what inspires you, and kind of like how your vision came about?
I always knew that I wasn't the type of person to work for somebody. I had a curious mind, and I didn't like to be told what to do. So those two things propelled me to look for opportunity where I was in control. You could almost say I'm a bit of a control freak. I like to be in control of how things happen. That drove me to seek opportunities that were, I would either do short-term contract work, anything that I wasn't, you have to show up at this time, you can only leave at this time, and this is what we're going to pay you, and that's that. And then you get to tell me what to do. So I knew early on that corporate structure lifestyle wasn't for me. I needed to be in the driver's seat. So everything I did, all my opportunities I tried to create, I always build things from nothing. And from the securities company to now, it was always where I saw a need that I could help fill. And then I structured a business plan around that. And here we are.
Wow. So when I used to run into you, like I'd run into you at some big like Toronto Film Fest stuff, Toronto Fashion Week. Yeah. As an entrepreneur and as a younger person, like how did you gain that traction? How did you get those doors open? And
I showed up as my best self, or at the time what I thought was my best self. So I wasn't afraid to walk up to any, especially in the city, nightlife club that was high end. I would put myself in front of them every time until I start to meet the right people. I've never been the sort of person that was shy about meeting people. You have two options. Like you can either tell me to go away, or you can have a drink with me and let's chat. And that's the approach I always went with. I like people. I love engaging with people. So that allowed me to really put myself out there, put myself in situations that I had no business being in. But it allowed me to connect with some of the key players in the city. There was this, and you probably do remember, Lobby was this big, really high-end, one of the highest, high-end clubs in the city. And I made sure I was there every Wednesday. I got to know everybody that was involved there. And then I started to work with them. So that really helped connect me with other people, because from there, then anybody who was in charge of anything came to Lobby. And I made sure I knew all the names to all the people, shook all the right hands, and put myself in a position to really get to know people. The key was that I enjoyed engaging with people. I wasn't shy nor intimidated about who you were, whether you were a celebrity, a CEO, whatever. You were just another human. If I found you curious, I was going to engage you in some way in a conversation, and that's really what helped connect me to all the people that I know now. It's really how I established myself, because when I first got here, I knew absolutely nobody. So. Wow. Yeah, the dark sides of it, I mean, in terms of all the negativity that comes with nightlife and entertainment business, it's easy to fall into that. It's easy to get stuck in that. I always was able to separate what was real from unreal. I didn't invite a lot of that part. It was work to me. You know what I mean? Yeah. It was an entity outside of myself. So when I wasn't doing that, when I wasn't doing a job or a gig or a contract, I had a separate life altogether, which was just me. I had real friends that weren't club friends, yeah, that I could have support from and really sit down have real conversations that weren't superficial, that weren't just about look and so it's important that you separate the two, and a lot of people don't. Their whole lives is just immersed in one thing. I love the people that I worked with, and I had great times with them, but I made sure I had a completely different, what quote unquote normal group of people that on the off days I would sit with them and reconnect to reality, so to speak, because it's very easy to get caught up with the nightlife being night, day, and morning. And it sucks you in and takes you down some dark roads. So I had a good support system is really what I think helped me stay positive. Because I always saw it, even at the darkest points, I always saw it as this is something else. This is another thing outside of me. This is not all me. So
Right.
that was my approach.
And what is it like to grow a business as a young Black male?
Tough. I mean, there were many times I wanted to give up. You're fighting not only the normal struggles of starting a business, gaining trust, reaching out, networking, but then I'm a big Black guy. So that alone, for some people, it was an intimidating factor. It was a threatening factor. The good thing is I have, as you pointed out, a very welcoming, calm demeanor. So it was easy, and I dressed well. So those things were the weapons that I used, was personality and my appearance to kind of cut through those roadblocks. Definitely, I got hit a ton of times with negativity, people that didn't want to work with me because of my skin color, but they would use other words and phrases to describe it. But when you decide that this is what you want to do, you have to, there's always going to be obstacles. So you can't let any one of those stop you. The people that didn't want to work with me, cool. There was always somebody that was willing to open a door, give me the opportunity, and let my work and what I can do speak for itself, not just, hey, he's a Black guy, he's probably going to do something. I don't know. I don't even know what goes through their minds to stop. So yeah, it was, you told me no, and I'd go to 10 other people and wait for one of them to tell me yes. That was always my attitude, because you can't change people's minds in a moment. So you got to work around them. And you certainly can't let their no stop you, or their prejudice stop you, or their racism stop you. And that was always my attitude. It was, all right, so I can't work with you. Let me look elsewhere.
And when there was like a difficult time, a difficult season where maybe that feeling of like giving up was more present,
Right.
How did you push through that? How did you move through it or reframe your perspective to keep going?
I kept reminding myself why I was doing it, that success was the only thing I wanted. I wanted to be good at what I did. I've never been a person to chase money, so that was never my objective. I wanted to be comfortable, of course, and be financially secure, but I always believed I was contributing something unique. And I kept that the focus that, okay, this person or this situation isn't reacting the way I want it to, but there's always going to be another situation. I was always a positive-minded person. That quitting wasn't an option. Is basically what I was saying. The success that I was chasing, the fulfillment I was chasing, wasn't going to be stopped by other people. I recognized early on that I was the only person that could stop me, and that's the mindset. Every time I got knocked down, every time I got a no, if I lost a contract, if people had something negative to say about me based on something obscure, I always reminded myself that's one opinion, one moment in time. Keep moving, keep going, and keep press on. And it served me well. It keeps serving me well even now. And there's been some dark times where you're just like, okay, that's it. I'm done. I'm moving out of the city. I'm doing something different. And then the fighter in me is like, nah, I'm not done. I'm not over. Get up. Let's go at it from a different angle. Let's try something new. Let's get some new people around you. Sometimes the energy around you is what, because if you're down and the people around you are not helping pick you up, you're not going to be in a good place at all.
Right. So speaking of your unique vision, because today now when you're doing image consulting, and lifestyle consulting, you work with men.
Yes.
How did that come about? Like, what inspires you to focus on working with men? And how did that, like, inside of you, like, how did that kind of like refocus your direction in entrepreneurship?
So after the securities business, I wanted to do image consulting. So I studied to be an image consultant. And then I realized that there needs to be more. A part of it came from just my own struggles with being a man and what do I want? How do I present myself? How am I pursuing my goals and my dreams? During that period, and the image business was already going, it was going fairly well. Two of my friends, who I considered fairly successful, committed suicide within 4 months apart. And I realized that whatever they were struggling with, it wasn't unique, because I've had those dark thoughts, those dark moments, not to that extreme, but it existed. So that's when the life coaching part of it, I wanted to not just dress men up and change their image, but I wanted to get their soul, their mindset in a different way. A lot of times, and even for myself, I was guilty of it too, we projected the image that we thought everybody wanted to see. Our hurt, our pain, our insecurities, we kept that bottled up and in a dark locked closet. And when those friends went to the extreme that it did, and they believed that was the only outlet they had, I realized I had to not only work on myself, but other men. I wanted to get us all mentally well, because that's really what it is. It's a mental health thing. And I think a lot of us run around and we go through the routine. We just get up every day and we go through the routine without really checking in on why are we doing what we're doing? Are we just following the guidelines that are set out by society that we chase money and we chase women, we do this, we do that? And I wanted more from that. And I wanted to, when I started to seek it for myself, I wanted to share what I was learning with other guys. And that's how the life coaching part of Mr. Kaizen came about.
So when you're working with men, so for example, I saw on your website that you create like different really cool bachelor parties as like one of your services.
Yes.
And when you're working with men, like let's say in a situation like that, where they might open up to you about their fears, insecurities, like how do you support someone with entering like this new stage of responsibilities? And like,
Right.
how do you support them with helping them believe that they are capable of taking up those like new responsibilities and actually succeeding at it without kind of like, faltering in that process? And how do you support them to believe that they can do that?
Well, the key part of it is nothing happens overnight. Everything is small steps. I even though I teach this stuff and I coach this stuff, I'm certainly not perfect. I'm still working on me. So the idea is not to approach it that I'm going to win it. It's not a basketball game that one team is going to win or lose. You have to approach it that I want to be better every day. I want to make an improvement every day. Sometimes it's going to be small, sometimes it's going to be big, but the drive is to improve every day. It's not seeking perfection, but being better than I was yesterday. And when I deal with my guys or coach my guys, that's what I always focus them on first. This is not a lot of my programs last 3 months. In 3 months, you're not going to be a whole new different man. You're not going to hit that goal that you wanted to reach. My job is to be the catalyst to help you set up the plan, recognize where you want to go, and then show you steps to get there. And it's going to take work. The two things that are key is belief and the willingness to work, because it doesn't happen overnight. And you have to believe that you can change, that you're going to improve, but give yourself time. A lot of times we want to treat it like a 4-year college program, and at the end you're going to have a degree, and life doesn't work like that. Like improvement doesn't work like that. It's work that you constantly have to, it's a habit that you got to build, no different from driving. And then it becomes automatic, and then you can start elevating. Okay, I achieved that. Let me look at this. Let me look at this. Let me look at this. The failure is going to come, and failure is just a way of saying, maybe not this way, try another way. A lot of people choose to use failure as a shutdown. I've always seen failure as like, okay, I need to go harder, but be wiser about how I do it. Maybe it's a different route. Maybe it's a different system. Maybe it's a different product, whatever it is. It's about being able to adapt, pivot, and understand that failure is just part of the learning process.
And what do you wish men would talk about more often?
Our insecurities. We often bury all that stuff. We carry it around. Our fears about our finances, our fears about how we look, our fears about whether people are respecting us or not, our fears about what people talk about us. We hardly ever talk about that stuff. When we gather as men, most men, we're looking to boast. We're looking to outdo the next guy. I have a bigger car, making more money. I got a better job. It's always the superficial stuff. We very rarely pour out the real stuff, and carrying that baggage around is why a lot of us have such bad behavior, because we're not being honest people. And then it manifests itself in negative behavior, whether it's abusing other people or abusing ourselves with alcohol, drugs, sex, whatever it is.
And what do you wish that women, family, friends, coworkers would ask men about more often, or talk about with men more often?
How they're really doing. Like, really, how are you doing? Not from a casual way. A lot of guys hold the things they hold in because women don't leave any room for them to talk about that. Women want a Superman that is James Bond and an elite warrior all bowled up into one, but yet are very upset when the guy can't be very affectionate and not doing the romantic things. I wish more women would really ask the guys in their life, whether it's your man, your brother, whoever it is, how they're really doing, how they're coping with the stressors of life. Women speak freely about that stuff all the time. You don't have to ask a woman what's going on. They're just going to start telling you. Guys, we keep it in. We're looking to show you the facade of a strong man versus what's really going on, what's really stressing you out. And that conversation of how are you really is important to ask.
Touching on that, so in the scene, it can be a place where a person, you see men at their worst kind of thing, and women, by the way, at their worst.
Absolutely. I was just going to tell you that. I see people at their worst.
Yeah, people at their worst. So when you're working with someone and maybe you have seen them at their worst,
right?
How do you then help them believe and feel safe enough, help them believe that you can also see them at their best? You can also see that part of them. How do you convince them that that's possible and that they can open and they can trust in that way?
Because all of us have a yin and a yang going on. It's just about which side of that do you want to be your dominant side. I've certainly not always behaved well. So it's a matter of what do you make the narrative of who you are, and which one do you want to be the front-facing part of you. It's not about not recognizing that you are capable of bad behavior or doing stupid things. It's just, is this going to be your everyday? Is this a one-off? And at some point in time, you got to really constrain the more negative impulses and stay focused on what the positive ones are. And that's part of the growth process, the elevation process of you're not just out there harassing every woman that you come in contact with, or getting drunk and falling down every night, or any of the negative behavior that is not positive. Part of that is getting to know yourself and knowing what it is. Because in most cases, that behavior is masking some kind of pain. And that's the outlet that guys use. bad behavior is never just bad behavior. Nobody wakes up and decides, I want to go out there and do negative stuff or insult people or, be mean. But when you're masking things, the behavior can manifest itself in different ways. So my job with my guys especially is reminding them that you're not perfect. So that's first. So get that out of your head. However, there are certain behavior that you can control. There's certain things that you can do to put yourself in a better position than making yourself look like, a douchebag, for lack of a better word. And it's all about understanding who you are, understand when you're hurting. Maybe you don't go to the club that night, get wasted when you get dumped, because then you're prone to do stupid things under the influence. So it's those little things. Even divorced guys, when they first get divorced, they want to run wild to cover that wound and heal that pain. That's not always the best thing to do. Maybe you need to sit with yourself first and decide, what is it I want now at this stage of my life? A chapter just ended. I'm a different person than I was when I was in my 20s. What is it I have to offer now, and how best do I present that? And that's my job, to help guide them through that process.
When you're working with someone who is conventionally more successful, like just on paper, they're conventionally more successful, and they are self-regulating with alcohol, drugs, sex, being kind of a bully or whatever it is. That's how they are self-regulating, and they are seeing that their accomplishments are getting better. Like, they keep accomplishing more. How do you convince someone who is self-regulating in destructive ways that, maybe when they're like 60 years old, they're going to have huge regrets? Like, how do you convince them of that when they're in their 30s, they're in their 40s, and they're feeling like an alpha, like they're feeling like things are working for them? And how do you support them with really understanding that, at the end, and we look back, it's if we're using all of these things and people to self-regulate, it's not what we think it's going to be when we get older. How do you help them through that?
I always ask, what do you want your legacy to be? I mean, any fool can make money. I mean, money is not a complicated thing. That's why there's tons of millionaires around. But how many people are noteworthy? How many people, when they're around, other people feel better? And I always frame it in that perspective. Do you just want to be the rich guy that can walk into any place and buy out the bar and get the biggest table? Sure, people might admire you, but do you want to be the guy that when you walk in a room, people are genuinely happy to see you, genuinely feel lifted by your presence, just by how you carry yourself, just by how you care about people, just by how you're there? Yes, you're successful, but it's not what you represent. You represent being just a better human being, a good human being. And when I frame it that way, versus I don't attack how they're living or how they've chose, what mistakes they've made in the past, that's not going to serve anybody. What do you want your legacy going forward to be? How do you want to be received? It's the old gangster, do you want to be respected or do you want to be liked? I always say, do you want to be remembered fondly, or do you want to be when you die, people go, damn, I don't miss that guy, or he was a tyrant, he was an asshole. When you leave a room, what do you want people saying about you when you're not in that room? And that's when I frame it like that, guys think about it a little bit different, because nobody wants to be spoken about badly, even if they're making money. And some guys don't even realize that the behavior is toxic or negative. This is just habit. So when you frame it in a different way about, tell me something, when you leave a room, what do you think people are saying about you when you're out of that room? When they can't hear you, when they don't have to be afraid of you taking a job away from them or anything like that. And if you think they're saying good things, cool. But if you're doubting, then that's when we start doing the work.
Wow. So you're from Philly, right? You
Correct.
moved to Toronto.
Yeah.
And you were an athlete.
Yep.
And then I saw an interview with you where it's not only do you do image consulting, it's you can make suits. So how do you, because you had the securities, you did the events, how do you as an entrepreneur be someone who can pivot, and not only pivot, but like make real commitment to something where you can actually be that interested, curious, like keep focusing and studying? Like, how do you pivot that much where you can be like, you can have success at multiple things that seemingly to someone else look very different?
It goes back to the first thing I told you. I love people. I love engaging with people. I love interacting with people. If you notice, all the businesses that I've done, everything involves people, front-facing people. I like interactions. I like laughing with people. I enjoy seeing people happy. And I always wanted to do things to help people be happy. I always wanted to be involved in that arena. I'm not a comedian. I'm not a singer. I don't think I'm a great actor. So everything I've done has been in that realm of helping people be better, because that's what I'm doing for myself. So to other people, it might seem different. To me, it's all the same bridge. It's all the same road. I want to improve lives. I want to bring joy to people, and I want to help people feel better. All right. So that's how I choose what I do. My natural gifts, I'm able to engage with people. I know that's my gift. Like I'm able to, with a plethora of people from all walks of life, I can sit down and have a conversation with, from the bum to a CEO, because to me, they're human beings that are just having a different life. So that's always been how I decided what path I wanted to follow. Can I be helpful? Can I be of service? And is it going to be impactful? That's how I always think about it.
And how have you been, like, during the pandemic with business, with life? Like, how have you moved through this time?
It was very eye-opening for me. It made me change a lot of my perspective on certain things. It made me really distill what was really important to me, because a lot of, in the past, a lot of the things I did was based on image, because that's what I do for business. And then the pandemic made me really dig deep in, is this really serving me? Is this really serving the purpose that I believe I have, which is to help improve lives, guys' lives? But in my mind, when I help a guy, it spreads out to the community, the next person he dates, the people in his life. So I always think of it from that perspective. It allowed me to really hone in on what's important to me and how I want to push forward doing what I do. And it was hard at first because it was a big change. I closed the shop. I decided not to have a brick and mortar space anymore. But then I realized the freedom it gave me as well. I was able to engage with my clients in far more personal ways, not just waiting for them to come to me. I could reach out in a different way, more involved on the internet, that kind of thing, online, in talking to people online. So for me, it was very positive. As negative as all the negative things that came with it, it was positive in helping me really focus on how I want to present what it is I'm offering right now and how I want to provide that service without the fluff and all the other bells and whistle stuff to make it look cool versus just doing the real work authentically.
And when you're working with people one-on-one or like privately, who are more referred by family or by, I saw you say like ex-girlfriends and like this type of thing, compared to when you do corporate consulting, what are some of the differences for you in like both of those business models? And how do you create a vision for both of those experiences that are can be so different or like feel so different?
So on the corporate side, they already have an idea of what they want to present. So it's basically, can you help my team get here? This is where we want them. They're not quite there yet. So that is a little, I wouldn't say it's less heavy lifting, but there's already a corporate structure. There's already an image that they want to present. I'm just helping their new team members or some of the established team members fit into that box. When it's individual, it's really helping the guy define the type of man he wants to be going forward. Like, What do you feel is holding you back? Where do you want to make the changes, and how are we going to make that change? So it's different, and because now we're actually going to design the plan and the look of who you want to present for the years coming up. So it's a little bit more heavy lifting when it's an individual than the corporate structure, which is help the team fit into this box versus let's build a whole structure of who you want to be and how you want to move forward from here.
I took about a year off of like wearing tight clothes, wearing makeup, doing my hair, and the fluctuations emotionally during that time it was like such a strange experience.
Right.
When you're working with someone, how do you help them? Like, especially someone who doesn't pay attention to image, or they're not, that's not like, doesn't come natural to them.
Right.
Like style. And like when you're working with someone, how do you help them understand the bridge between like self-esteem and vision and how we present ourselves and how we brand ourselves?
I remind people that we don't just work with ourselves. If we just work with ourselves, we can show up in sweatpants and Cheetos on our shirts and all that stuff. If you're engaging with other people, you want them, even before they get close to you, before they start talking to you, to have a sense of who you are. And putting your best self forward is not being fake. It is simply, you're trying to be at your fittest. You're trying to be as physically appealing as you are, not with trying to fit into a mold or a box, but what you have, what your present physical self is, how can you best present that? What am I wearing? How does this express? The messaging is always what should be key. What is the message I want to send to the world? And when you look at it from that perspective, I normally can get clients to understand it, not like, I'm not trying to make you Ryan Reynolds. I'm not trying to turn you into Will Smith or Michael B. Jordan. Let's focus on, what do you think your message to the world is, and how can we visually present that from a distance? Because people decide whether they're going to talk to you or not from afar. It's not up close and personal. So they don't have any idea of your personality. How you can broadcast that, though, is with your presentation. It's with what you're wearing, how you wear it, and all those things, the fit, the look, the colors you choose to wear. And that we can make very personal. And we don't have to, skew it specifically to any particular thing. Let's just focus on you and how you feel most comfortable. Because the key with me, with clients, I never try to, I have had clients come to me and say, look, I just want to be like you. And I'm like, well, that's already taken. So no. I don't want to throw you in a suit right away. We can graduate to that, but let's clean up these baggy jeans, these messy shoes, this shirt that you've had for 4 or 5 years now, that the collar is all stretched out. So I start with the little things, and then we can upgrade. And if it's a guy that already has a good sense of his fashion, then how can we hone in that image to make it more specific? Because again, we want to keep improving. We don't want you one day to look great. Like when you go to work, sure, you look great in a suit. Outside of work, we're like, why do you look like a 21-year-old college kid? Like, what's going on here? So we find that middle ground to get the style. The messaging is what it is. It's branding. I tell everybody, all of us, every one of us, whether we're entrepreneurs or just an everyday person, have a brand. How we express that brand to the world is what clothing and how we dress and carry ourselves is, how we speak, all that stuff, the posture we keep, all that stuff is part of our branding. So I try to educate them on that part of it. It makes it easier after that.
What do you do when a guy is like, yeah, but you're tall and like you have like muscles and like, like, what do you do when they just look at you and they're like, well, women will just respond to you differently because like I'm short and I'm like skinny, or like I'm, out of shape? Or what do you do when they're just looking at you being like, you don't understand like what I'm going through, or you don't understand what I'm feeling,
right?
Or how do you move through that with them?
I point out that everybody has what they consider their weakness or their worst commodity. I mean, some guys, I go, try being black then. You know, it's all of us have something that could be considered a crutch, that we can either focus on that or focus on what we have that is a winner. If it's your personality, if you're good at skills, whatever it is, the physicality is important to some degree, yes, but at the end of the day, people want people that they find interesting. They want people that they can engage with mentally. Because after a while, you being tall, if you're a tall asshole, you're a tall asshole, versus if you're a short, an asshole is an asshole. So it doesn't matter the packaging. So let's focus on presenting the best version of you. If you're 5'4" and you're concerned about your height, then people are going to be concerned about your height. If you're 5'4" and you present yourself as a full human being, and here's all the things I have to offer, people are less worried about your height. All our insecurities, which is what I've learned when I teach all my guys, most of our insecurities are self-imposed. Other people are not as worried about it as we are, right? And if you meet somebody that rejects you based on your height, do you really want that person anyways? Because they obviously have some other things going on with them. So let's get comfortable with what we have to work with and the best parts of that, and be worried less about things we cannot change. You can't change your height. You can't change your skin color. You know, I mean, you could hide your eye color and stuff like that. But for the most part, the standard things, this is what you got to work with. So what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Stay in a box or present it in the best way possible, you know?
How, like, when a guy opens up to you, like, I had this situation once where I met someone for coffee, and he had very, very like strong social anxiety.
Right.
And I didn't know like how to kind of hold space. And so
Right.
he had like this breakdown of being like, you know, that his wife left him, and you know, he was just like, am I that ugly? Like that's what that's where he went. And he was just like asking me, like, am I that like he was just.
And this was a coffee date?
It was what?
Was this a coffee date or just a friend that you were meeting?
It was someone who like, I was like trying to help them like become social.
Right.
So like, I was like trying to like I invited him to like an art show. Like I was just trying to like help socialize him, because that's what like, I wasn't his coach, but like that's kind of why he reached out, kind of thing. And so when that breakdown happened, I didn't know how to hold space for that. So when a man just comes up against that point and they have that type of moment where they're just vulnerable, they just bare themselves, how do you hold space so that they don't retract again or close up again?
Point out that this is okay. Point out that they're not Superman. And the best way to start healing and improving is to let it out. If you want to cry, you want to scream, you want to yell, you want to shout, you give them that room and let them feel like it's okay. Not, you know, because your reaction could have been, oh my God, this is so embarrassing, get yourself together, stupid, stop this, you're a guy. The best way is to let the person have their moment. Let them know this is okay. You're human, you're not superhuman. And let's get it out. And then let's talk about, okay, so what can we do to really, what are you comfortable doing now? And then we take small steps. Some guys that have come to me, I've had to tell them, I have 3 therapists, like actual therapists that I work with, and I'll refer them if I feel that their problem is really deeper than what my services provide. And I'm quick to do that because I can't fix something that's beyond my skill set. I'm always commented of that. But anxiety is really a tough one because it is self-imposed, but it can be deep-rooted from stuff from childhood and all of that. So if it's something I feel I can tackle and help them with, definitely. If not, let me refer you to a therapist. They can really work with you at a deeper level. And some people need that. Some people, it's not a surface level thing. It's something deeper that they need to unravel and heal.
And when someone's resistant to therapy, how do you encourage them that it's okay and that it's normal? And
you point out that it's okay, but more importantly, do you want to stay stuck? do you really, this is not serving you, because you look at you're falling apart. You see that you need the help. There's two options. There's stay stuck, stay broken, stay hurt, or go and talk to this person, open up and let it out and heal it. And in a situation like that, you can only repeat those two differences. Either you stay in it or you get the help that you need. One is going to get you so much further ahead. The other one is going to keep you stuck in a hole. Luckily, I'm convincing when I deal with my guys. I'm usually able to get them to see that, yeah, you need more than I'm capable of. You really do need to. You can work with me, but you need to at least have an hour session a week with this person to get the other stuff healed up and fixed. Because sometimes it's just a matter of showing somebody how to navigate the emotional baggage that they're carrying. And people carry stuff around for years that they don't even know how much it's affecting their current behavior. I've met tons of guys like that, that when you really talk with them, then you get the answers of, oh, so this is why you do this. This is based on how your older brother treated you, or your uncle treated you, or your grandfather treated you. And, you know, people don't realize the type of baggage they're carrying around with, especially men, because we never talk about it. We're told to shut up and be a man. Well, does that mean I don't have feelings? Because, you know, last time I checked, man is still human, and humans have feelings. So I break it down always that way, that you are allowed to feel, you're allowed to hurt, you're allowed to cry, and you're allowed to break. The difference is, do we get up from being knocked down? That's the only difference.
You said, like, in the interview that I watched, that you'd seen Barack Obama. Was it live in Toronto?
I've seen Barack several times. So I saw him in Chicago, 2007. This was before he became president. And most recently, I saw him in Toronto, I guess.
And you mentioned that he was one of the people you consider an influencer.
Absolutely.
What is it that you've heard him say, or like during his speeches, or what is it in some of his books?
Yeah.
Like that really kind of like inspires you? And
Obama is regal. I always use that word to describe him. He's kingly without all the pompous nonsense that goes along with that. He can read a room. He recognizes what needs to be said in order to calm people, and I admire that about him. He has an abundance of empathy. I think that's his best trait that I've seen. He is highly empathetic and then highly intelligent as well. So he knows how to deal with all kinds of people and still make them feel heard, present, and seen. And that's always what I've always wanted to do. And that's what I model, is that I don't try to make anybody feel less than. I always try to lift people up, never put them down. That's always my focus. And that's what I see in Barack. He's always, you know, cognitive and thoughtful. It's never just, I'm the president, let me do this, do that. It's never about making people feel bad. He tries to consider everybody's feelings, but still can make decisions that some people will agree or disagree with. So I've always admired that. I call it regality, that he walks in and you're gonna notice him. Not because he's being loud, not because he's being obnoxious, but because of the way he carries himself, the way he greets you, the way he looks at you when he talks to you. Those things, he does it brilliantly. So always love them for that. And the same thing with a guy like Will Smith. They have a way of engaging you that makes you feel disarmed, makes you feel welcome, makes you feel heard and seen. And you know they've been through some stuff themselves, you know, and it hasn't limited them. It never seems like they're putting somebody else down to pull themselves up. You know, they just are. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. So yeah, Barack's my guy.
So where can we find you online? Like, where can we follow you?
So the main thing, the website, www.meetmrkaizen.com. I'm also on Instagram, both as I am Kassius, which is the more personal one. It's not so personal though. and Meet Mr. Kaizen. I'm on Twitter. I am Kassius. Meet Mr. Kaizen. On LinkedIn, it's Kassius Denizen. And where else am I? Oh, on YouTube, Mr. Kaizen. I think that's about it. I'm about to get on TikTok because I have friends that keep telling me, you should be on TikTok, 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 TikTok. I always saw it as the stupid dance channel, but apparently it's good for other things. So I'm in the process of creating a TikTok right now. But yeah,
Oh.
those are the easiest ways.
And the last question. So what do you wish that I asked you, or what do you wish people asked you more often?
How am I doing? I don't get asked, I kid you not. I have my very close core group of friends that will ask me, but most of the time I'm approached for advice. I'm approached for, hey, do you know somebody that can do this? I'm always engaged for a service, and I'm often and I've become more aware of it, especially during the pandemic, because it's just like, oh, somebody's reaching out. Oh, they needed something. Okay, cool. And it's never, hey, how are you really doing? Because again, and I know it's part of, I mean, it means that what I'm selling is working well because people think I'm always fine, which is definitely not true because I'm human. So that's one of the questions I wish people would ask me more often is, how are you really doing? Not and that's what I hope for most men. It's not just the, assuming that we're fine and, let's just dive into whatever it is we need from you.
Yeah.
It's really check in with how are you doing and how are you feeling and how are you processing everything? Those questions are important, they're key. And a lot of guys would be open to talk about it, but you don't want to be the one, you don't want to sound like you're complaining. That's one of the biggest fears of men. We don't want to be seen as a complainer.
Yeah.
But it's nice to be asked, how you really doing.
So instead of asking you at the beginning, how are you really doing?
I'm well. I love what I do. There were new challenges that I was happy to meet, and they really grew me in new ways that I'm very grateful for. That if things had stayed the same pre-COVID, I would probably still be fighting to present an image versus being exactly what it is I'm portraying. And so I'm doing well. There's down days, obviously, but I've strengthened myself in such a ways that I'm able to pick up myself faster from those days. So yeah, I feel good. I wake up with optimism, and that's always the first thing. I'm able to wake up and say, you know what? I accomplished that yesterday, and that's good. Even if it wasn't everything I wanted to do, or I helped that client, or I designed that suit for this client, I was really happy about it. And then I build on that. So that's a good place, I think, for me to be in. And for a while, I wasn't in that place. I really was questioning, why are you doing all of this? And it became a routine. It was work, and I don't like to work. I really don't. I like to do what I do, and it produce, but I don't like work, which is why I never wanted to work for anybody. I don't think it's a natural human occurrence. So, yeah.